Okay, thank you so much, Eric. That was very provocative, interesting, and I think we all aspire to be sexy ad researchers. So now it's my great honor to present the process that we went through and the importance of the Erwin Ephron Award. This past year we lost Erwin Ephron. He was so important to us in our industry. One of the things I really liked about Eric's talk was he talked about characteristics of leaders: creativity, persistence, humility, and certainly those were characteristics that Erwin embraced. And so it's my great honor to begin the ceremony for the Erwin Ephron Demystification Award. And what I want to share with you is we convened a panel of judges. I'm going to share with you who they were in just a minute. Every single one of them had so many things to say and had such a great and clear and cogent sense of what Erwin stood for. And so I promise you, and while he was the great simplifier, every single word on these pages means something. And the group that were judges felt so incredibly proud and had so much conviction about this that it was actually agreed in our meeting that if no one that was nominated actually met these criteria, then we would not actually be giving an Erwin Ephron Award this year. That's how important this is. So I want you to just take a minute and embrace these, because I think as I spoke at the beginning of the day about leadership and about the importance of leadership, each of these characteristics is something for us to take away as we reinvent ourselves to be the leaders of the future and for future now. So this award is based on an individual's demonstrated good sense and sound judgment about business, communication ability, which is critically important, and excels in one or more of the following practices: challenging conventional thinking, motivating forward conceptualizing, promoting proactive debate and creative ideas, instilling thoughtful understanding through clear articulation in public speaking and in writing, embracing analytics and/or technology that address the complexities of modern markets, translates ideas into action, inspires communication that speaks to CEOs and CFOs, and encourages collegiality. And what I want you all to really take in about this list is it's not just about what is accomplished, but it clearly, Erwin lived his life in a way that it was as much about how it was accomplished. And that was equally important as we went through and discussed each of the candidates that were nominated. Now, this is the panel of judges. These are folks that are current ARF board members, former ARF board members. I want to take a minute to comment on and acknowledge Gail Metzger, who is not able to be here because of a health issue, but just had poured so much of his heart and soul into this process, and I know would dearly love to join me up here. And on his behalf, Gabe Samuels is going to join in just a minute. We were fortunate enough to have, close to 24 nominations, and it was really a great gift to move through this process. I'm going to share a film about Erwin, and then Gabe is going to come up and speak. Then we're going to have another film that honors our award winner, and then we're going to convene the actual award process. And the award is so heavy that I seriously doubt that the award winner will be able to lift it back to their desk. So we have special arrangements here. So without further ado, here's Erwin Ephron.
Erwin Ephron was a scholar and a gentleman.
Phenomenal.
Wit,
eloquence,
ability to communicate,
brilliance,
Actionable.
leadership,
Pragmatic.
intelligence,
Demystified.
A man with a giant intellect and simple words.
The winners of this award will truly be honored to be associated with Erwin and to be recognized for his unique qualities. A career achievement for anyone so honored.
We must ask ourselves, what would Erwin say and do before we create today's new theories and best practices? That is Erwin's legacy.
To the very many of us who had a good fortune to know him personally, he was an inspiration and a delight.
Erwin made a huge impact on the industry, largely through his wit, intelligence and ability to communicate.
I thought it was incredible that someone of his importance and position in the marketplace took the time and helped and mentored.
And there was no one that I knew who could explain a complex matter in simple words and in simple concepts. And Erwin was the guy that I always went to.
He was phenomenal at taking ideas that all of us created and turning them into things that were actionable, that were pragmatic, that lifted our industry to better thinking.
The winner certainly reflects your leadership, your eloquence, and your ability to take very complex concepts and ideas and explain them simply.
The Erwin Ephron Demystification Award is an acknowledgement of the high esteem with which we hold him and his memory.
Please join me in welcoming Gabe Samuels to the podium with me. He's going to help announce the award winner, and he has a little presentation that he would like to give. For anyone that doesn't know Gabe, he's a journalist. He has a history with the ARF. He's an important industry leader, and it's an honor to have you here.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Good afternoon, everybody. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you the winner of the very first Erwin Ephron Demystification Award. Now, I take issue with the whole title, Erwin Ephron Demystification Award. It's a mouthful. So what I thought we would do is give it a nice, sexy name, and we'll call it the Demi. So, well, we'll talk about the Demi. So without further ado, which is, I know you've all been waiting for that, let me reveal to you that the winner is none other but my very good friend, Bill Harvey. Now, Bill, of course, is the man who needs no introduction. I doubt anybody in this room doesn't think they know him, but I'm not so sure. So allow me to disabuse those of you who think you really know him and tell you that that notion is not necessarily correct. Bill and I have known each other for, I was going to say 5 decades, but it sounds like a lot, so for a long time. And to this day, he still surprises me. So I'd like to mention a couple of things why I'm surprised. So, in a word, Bill has more facets than a 20-carat diamond. And he shines at least as brilliantly. But he's first and probably really a philosopher. I don't know if you know that. You think of him as an entrepreneur, I'll get to it in a second, but Bill is a philosopher. He went to Brooklyn College and studied philosophy and got a magna cum laude. I guess that qualifies. He's also a humanitarian, which is maybe just as much of a vocation as being a philosopher. So he wrote a book years ago called Mind Magic. And it's really his philosophy of what it is about us and the universe that connects us and how can we improve our capability. Call it the flow state. I think it's been invented by somebody else, but I think Bill really owns it at this time. And a lot of it is this Mind Magic book. I'll talk about it in a second. that. Okay, so the most important thing about Bill that qualifies him to be the recipient of the award, he's a writer. He puts everything down. Erwin Ephron famously said in his website, which was Ephron on Media, said, the only difference between me and everybody else is when I see something and I want to say something, I put it down in writing. Well, Bill does as well. And it's sort of a list of books. It's not nowhere near to show everything that he did, but the Nothing's Imagination. Let's go back here for a second. It's a children's book, written years and years ago. Even the title is kind of interesting. Soul Babies Riding Horses in the Garden of Eden. It's another children's book. So nothing to do with media or media research. Mind Magic. Now that's Bill's real big book. And just to tell you how big it was, a couple of the readers famously who wrote to him back and thanked him for it was Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter. So we go back a couple of years. And John Lennon, of all people, enjoyed the book so much that he gave it away to somebody and he forgot who. And then Yoko Ono wrote to Bill and said, could you send me a couple of dozen of your books? I want to give it to my friends. So it's an important book. It doesn't need me to encourage you to buy it, but I would if I were you. It sold tens of thousands of copies. It is taught in, it's used as a textbook in some 35 universities. Now, I don't think everybody knows that. In any event, there's another book called Mind Experiments, which is a sort of a workbook to go with that textbook. And then just last month, Bill just published the next book in the same series. It says, You Are the Universe. Imagine that. Well, I'm trying to imagine. And then Plans for America, an older book. Our Client, the Planet, an older book, years ago. And here's 3 books which have an asterisk next to them because you can't find them anywhere. They're out of print. The Next 24 Years, Our Future, 3 Stoic Shocks and the Modern Trance. So Bill is a prolific writer. Finally, another qualifying item for Bill is the ADI. Now, you may have heard about that. Now, actually, Erwin Ephron himself already gave Bill the award, and couldn't have been a better award. The book that Erwin wrote, which is from media planning, from recency to engagement, the first chapter of the first book is totally devoted to Bill's discovery of the ADI. Now, I think Bill is a little bit more important than just an inventor. Oh, he is an inventor, all right, but he's a discoverer. He looks at stuff that all of us would look at, and he sees different things in it. And that's when he looked at the country and he said, why don't we have contiguous areas? And gave it a name called ADI. And it was such an important thing that for the next 30 or 40 years, it's arguably the most important element in marketing, not just media planning. So before I go any further, and so clearly, I think very highly of Bill, both as a judge and a friend. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recall one more thing. And that is something that probably most of you wouldn't know, but Bill started a very different career. If he weren't destined to be the ultimate researcher in the room, he would have been in show business. His parents, Ned and Sandra, both were in show business. His father was an orchestra leader of some great fame, and his mother was a showgirl with the Ziegfeld Review. And Bill started dancing at the age of 4. I was going to ask him to come up and do a little soft chew, but he wouldn't. So anyway, that's a little anecdote. But before I go any further and ask Bill to come up and collect what is rightfully his, I'd like to show a little video of what some other people are saying.
It's a pleasure to be here with you today and to talk about my dear friend and colleague, Bill Harvey.
Starting with the ADI, Bill has had an extraordinary career and impact on our industry.
He's able to communicate effectively. He writes books, he has newsletters.
I was fortunate to get to know Bill back probably in 1995 with his work with Next Century Media.
Bill has been a person that translates ideas into reality.
No one has epitomized more the notion of challenging conventional wisdom.
Bill has challenged conventional thinking since he got into the business. He's done it both on the media side as well as on the marketing side.
An extraordinary spirit, always a twinkle in his eye, always happy, always friendly. Bill, I'm really excited for you. We're so happy to share this with you, and congratulations on the award.
Bill is truly a genius of our times, and I am very happy to have nominated him. Congratulations, Bill.
I am so excited that my good friend and colleague and mentor, Bill Harvey, will be receiving the very first ARF Erwin Ephron Media Demystification Award.
Hey, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, see if you can.
Thank you, ARF, everyone involved. Thank you also, Erwin, for teaching me how to demystify a bit. Frankly, I'm still working on it. None of us can do it the way you could, buddy. I want to share with you a message from Erwin. I'm convinced that this happened for this reason. The last conversation I had with Erwin, he called me. I was at the Grand Hyatt. He called me, reached me on my cell in my hotel room, and he said, "We've got some unfinished business to do together with the ARF." So we had done some business together with the ARF. We had, in 2002, after 3 years of working with a lot of other great people, put out a ARF media model, which sums up kind of all of what Erwin and I, Jim Spaeth, Bill Moran, Desmond Maroney, Phil Brandon, everything we knew at the time about media and about advertising. And so I got to know deeply through that process over 3 years everything that I believed and everything that Erwin believed, and we agreed on pretty much everything. Echoing what Eric Rosa was just talking about, the application of something like a direct marketer's discipline to regular brand advertising, Erwin and I were completely, absolutely linked at the hip on that subject. Both of us believed that the job of media and everybody in media is to do two things for the brand: to drive immediate sales so as to have a positive effect on quarterly earnings, and more importantly, to drive long-term brand equity. And to think that sales is what media is about is still a radical notion, as Eric pointed out. In doing this maximization of the sales and long-term brand equity, Erwin helped teach us, or we learned together as an industry with him at the helm, about certain principles of how to make this work. The one that he felt on that phone call that night was being adequately dealt with was the idea of targeting. He thought we had really sold targeting, and targeting was taking off. But he felt that some of the other principles weren't. One of the other principles, if you read his book, and I think you should, Media Planning, the first 2 chapters are about spot media. He really believed that he called it geo-targeting, and he called it spot. And he said it's additive with what we mean by regular targeting. If you're trying to reach purchasers, that's a good thing. You could do that in national media. You could do that in local media. But if you just buy national media, you're going to be overspending in some markets where the brand has topped out and has no more real opportunity for incremental growth. And you're going to be underspending in other markets where there's opportunity. He felt that was lagging. Recency theory. He believed that was a theory that should have been immediately, systematically exploited by every brand, and every brand should be running in continuity, and that wasn't happening either. Now, this wasn't a down conversation at all. Erwin was never one to curse the darkness, but always to light a candle. So this was a conversation about the fun we were going to have and what we were going to do next, which unfortunately didn't come to pass, although I'm trying to carry out some of those things in his memory, and because they're right. One thing of particular interest to him has always been the attentional and psychological value of the media environment that delivers the audience to the creative. He was very interested in adding the idea of attention to the media model, which of course we did. And I think he would be therefore happy to see what Dave Poltrak and I present tomorrow at 10 a.m., which is about that subject. So there's still a lot to learn, and the good news is there's still a lot of work for us in the room to do. And I look forward to working with all of you and to learning from you. Thank you again, ARF, for everything.
Thank you, Bill, for those inspiring remarks. Okay, so now we're going to close the conference for today, the first day. Thank you all so much for being here. It means the world.